Good morning, all. On behalf of D2C, I would like to welcome you all to the 6th edition of Nextv CEO Africa. Today, we will take a deep look into how key companies in Africa can unlock their full potential through the different opportunities and challenges we face. Before presenting today's agenda, I would like to thank our speakers, moderators, and sponsors, namely DW, Harmonic, Zatu, SES, Meteorological, and BBC World News. Let's take a look at our agenda for day one. Our first panel is the African broadcaster's role in the fast-moving TV landscape. At 10:30, we'll have a panel discussion on targeting social media with live entertainment. At 11:30, we'll have a panel dedicated on mobile operators going into content distribution. And after lunch, we'll have a panel discussion hosted by DW, connecting the dots, regionalization and vs globalization. At 2 p.m., a panel discussion on fiber deployment and new opportunities for ISPs and content providers. And our last panel discussion for day one is local production trends, partnership, and co-production. And today I have pleasure to welcome Thais from Meteorological, Saifulai from LTE, Carol from Royal Media Services, and Samuel from City TV. And this panel will be moderated by Rhys Torrington from Duguana Media. Thank you. Over to you, Rhys.
Thank you very much, Beatrice. Good morning, everybody, wherever you happen to be in the world. I'm suspecting most of you are in nice, warm, sunny Africa. I'm not. I'm in cold, wet, chilly Wimbledon, London. But never mind, that's the price you pay for having a bright blue passport now, post-Brexit. So we've started with a laugh, and to keep the humor going, I'm just going to go around the screen in front of me in clockwise order and ask everybody on who they are. So apologies, this will mean ladies last, Carol, for me to be able to keep to that thing. But Thais, off you go. Where are you? Who are you and why?
Good morning, Rhys, and good morning, everybody. Really delighted to be here. Some Dutch name practice first. So my name is Thijs Bijleveld. I'm actually in sunny but cold Netherlands today, so not as bad as you are, Rhys, but definitely not as good as everyone in Africa. I had the business development and sales activity for Meteorological and Comcast Technology Services. So in that sense, looking after our activities in the African market. Definitely, I would say a lot of focus on how to help operators and content providers to start and engage their OTT play. So yeah, that's me, Rhys, as a quick intro.
Thank you very much. Saifulai, how about you?
Yeah, thank you. Oh, the weather is very cool here, very sunny. So you were right. I'm in Côte d'Ivoire. I'm in Abidjan, and I'm from RTI. RTI is the national television of the country, and I have the privilege to run the marketing and the digital activities of this company. So I'm very delighted to be with you guys, and I think that we have good discussions forward.
Good, Samuel.
Yes, I'm Samuel Atamensa. I work with City TV in Accra, Ghana. Just by way of information, we just qualified for the World Cup only last night. Apologies to Nigeria. And,
you must be tired out, Samuel.
Well, exhausted is the word. Yeah, so yeah, we run a TV station, radio, and online business in Accra and Ghana generally. And I am very delighted to be part of this conversation this morning.
And we're glad to have you. Even more glad to have Carol.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's lovely to be here and be part of this conversation. Greetings from sunny Nairobi. It had been hotter. We're now experiencing a bit of rain, so it's a bit cooler. I'm marketing director for Royal Media Services and also responsible for content acquisition, content strategy for anything that is not locally produced internally, and also leading the digital transformation for the group. So I guess later on we'll share what our different companies are, but Royal Media Services, maybe in summary, is an umbrella company to 14 radio stations actually, 12 vernacular, 2 national, and 3 TV stations, as well as 2 digital platforms.
I'm glad you said that, Carol, because Raw Media Service is not really a catchy name. Probably not even many Kenyans would necessarily know what that is. They'd know you by your brands, of which I guess Citizen TV would be the #1.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Citizen TV is the #1 free-to-air TV station in the country, and the #1 by far, if we may say so ourselves. The last research by Ipsos, which is an international research firm, from Q4 2021 placed us at a market share of 47.6%, with our second TV station, Inoro Television, coming to a close #2, being a vernacular station at a far 7.5%, and the other English stations following from there. So our market dominance has been consistent over the years. We recently launched a third vernacular TV station, Ramogi TV, which has also now showed up on the research at 2.9%. And we are really following that closely to make sure it plays in the same space that we want it to.
I mean, in a way, that's an interesting place for us to start, because what you're describing there is a very successful traditional TV broadcaster, linear driven. So what is your strategy? Are you being dragged kicking and screaming into OTT and things like that? Or are you doing it because everybody else is doing it? Or do you think you have to do it to stay alive? What's your motivation at Raw Media Services?
Wow, good question. And I think a lot of us in this space and in this country, in the media space, have always said that the obituary for traditional media was written too early. You know, we've had articles from as far back as 15, 20 years ago predicting the death of radio, the death of TV, and the big takeover of digital. Well, in our case, we've prepared ourselves for that imminent, transition into digital, but I've continued to see a lot of growth over the years up until recently on the traditional platforms. So for us, the traditional platforms are our backbone. And what we've continued to see is that we've managed to successfully migrate to digital and translate our dominance there, which has been interesting. Key lesson being that our audiences are following the familiar content that they know in traditional media. Is there some feedback?
There is a bit of feedback, yes, don't know why. But it's not overly disruptive. I wouldn't lose your flow over it.
Okay. Yes, so we've continued to see that the success of our presence online has been driven by the traditional media. So the good content, the trusted bulletins that we've continued to show.
So is that news, entertainment, mixture of both? Because I mean, Citizen's always had a good reputation for independent news.
Precisely. What did she say here? Please make sure that. So it is a combination of both news and entertainment. So what we've done on the online space is we have 2 apps. And one is Viewsasa, one is Citizen Digital. One primarily focusing on entertainment and other convenient options like pay portals and all, but mainly driven by entertainment content, while Citizen Digital, which was just relaunched 5 months ago, has predominantly focused on news. And we've seen an immediate uptake of the 2 apps, especially on the new Citizen Digital that is 5 months old, because the learning is that it's the same content, but on a different device. So we are trying to give bite-size, yet comprehensive bulletin, news content there, and encourage on-the-go consumption on the app of trusted content.
So are you editing and re-editing what you've already done, or do you specifically make something? So this is, I've got 3 minutes to do this, and I make a brand new program.
Yeah, we're going for it as fresh content on the digital front.
Right.
Because I'm sure we've all experienced, and my colleagues will share, is that we are now going digital fast. News is breaking digitally fast. So we have to curate the content for digital. So what's happening on traditional media is that we are confirming what consumers already know happened. And so we are bringing analysis, expert advice onto the traditional media, but yes, going with fresh content.
So if this was a newspaper, your digital is the front page and your opinion columns and whatever are going on the linear platform.
Precisely. That's the sort of dance we are making. Precisely.
Yeah. Samuel, can I ask you, because I know that you've got a grand history in traditional, let's call it broadcasting, very much within Ghana, and probably a bit more than Carol, you're constrained by the borders of the country. What's your take on digital movement, OTT? Again, are you embracing it? I know you do quite a lot on YouTube.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Carol. You know, we try to reflect the general direction of the consumption patterns, specifically among the youth, because we all heard that traditional media was going to see its coffin very soon, but I think it's delayed, and we are happy that it's delayed. Well, we clearly have tried to align ourselves to the trends in the consumption of serial media as opposed to the sequential form of media expression. So traditional media has gotten to a place where there's a nice overlap of information consumption. And what I mean by overlap is people get news first from digital media, news first, but they don't get analysis first. They don't get validation first. They don't get verification first. And so the good combination is, yes, digital media is first to speak, but they need confirmation from traditional media. So that keeps the relevance of traditional media somewhat at a fair degree. And so we have tried to do a good balance of our traditional media and also try and push through digital media by working out on curating different short form content of what traditional media has and quick to use content which is branded and can be easily identified. Think about our space here, and I'm talking about Ghana specifically, and to some extent Nigeria, is there's not a high degree of regulation for media. So it makes digital media a very loosely, if you like, loosely, I don't know what to, but people say what they like, how they like, whenever they want to. And for consumers to verify what they see, they need to go back to traditional media. I mean, it's very easy in Kenya because Citizen is dominating everything. So it's easy to, did Citizen confirm it? That's how they're going to go by it. So it puts a huge responsibility on us. While we work our way into digital media, we still need to find a good balance. And that's where we are now. All our channels, radio, TV, online, have found a way of integrating. So if you go to City Newsroom, which is our portal, and all our social media handles, you see a nice combination of radio news, TV news, and then any other that we find on the landscape.
You've also got a great career as a mind reader, because my next question was going to be, do you keep several editorial teams or do you mix them up? I mean, some people I know just keep the digital guys down in the basement because they don't need daylight.
Okay, so this is what we do. The digital obviously digital media is broken into two. The online news production team within the digital media, interestingly, report to the head of news. And then the social media team reports to head of new media. Because we noticed that the mechanics for working out their way is different. The things that motivate them are different. One is motivated by putting out news in its full form. One is also motivated by engaging consumers. And this way, they are doing mainline news, they are doing entertainment news, they are doing social engagement, they are doing events and the like. So that's how we have structured ours. But in terms of news production, the digital media news team also are in the same department as our general news team. So editorially, they belong to the same unit.
Great, so I'm going to ask Saifullah what his experience of that is, because he's just up the road from you, so to speak, in Côte d'Ivoire. But we mentioned something earlier on about regulation, and one of the things I'd also like to get your view on, Saifullah, as well, is government has traditionally been able to regulate linear type distribution and content, and some countries in East Africa have got certainly a checkered record in what they do with news, and have sort of lost that control a little bit, with news now being led digitally, social media and whatever. And I'm wondering if either you, Samuel, or let's start with you, Saifullah, whether you've got some experience now of being able to disseminate information that people want to consume and the verification of it. If you're speaking, Saifullah, you've left yourself on mute.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. It was really interesting, but not everybody's as good at lip reading as I am.
I thought you can read on the lips. So, yeah, I have quite the same story about Carol and Samuel. And we have the national television, so we have 5 channels, 3 TV channels and 2 radio. And what we have done, the editorial of the channels are very diversical. You see, it is with music, with entertainment, and with news. So what we have done is quite like Samuel. We have subdivided the information and the news. The head of the news is responsible of all the things about the news, even social media, even broadcast, you see. So we have experimenting, the people have notification from the digital, and they want to go further with the linear. So what they do, to answer to your question, they have a good, how can I say, a good literacy for the information about the digital, and they are what we have done, we have educating people about the fake news. About the fake news, what we say to our consumer is that we don't want to be fast to give the information, because we don't want to give them fake news. So sometimes people, our competitors can give some news, but people are waiting for us to confirm, even on digital or on linear, you see. So we have a quite good relationship with them between the digital and the linear.
Great. And Thijs, from a technical point of view, supporting all of these great aspirations of the other 3, what's your take on how things are going?
It's an interesting question, right? Because I guess I'm a little bit strange in this discussion, because I basically come a little bit more from the distributor side, meaning that we are supporting basically many tier one operators worldwide to kind of start that OTT play. And there's a couple of things that I wanted to say. I guess, you know, if you look at Africa, if you look at the market, I guess it's not one answer, right? I think it's many answers. It depends really on what country and what market you're in. But what does it take, right, to make an OTT play successful? Is free to air a problem, or is it an opportunity? So first of all, I would say that's an opportunity, because you need a big audience. So to what all the other panelists are saying, I think that the traditional media content that is offered in many different ways is here to stay, because what we learned over the last couple of years is end consumers don't like verticals. They don't like the separate silos, right? They don't go to traditional media and then say, oh, okay, I want to know something more, or I would like to consume some more long tail video, and then they go somewhere else, right? That's, for example, a completely different market. But one of the learnings from the US is people stack up to, 2, 3, or even 4 different OTT subscriptions if they want to go and do some heavy content consumption. But they seek for other ways. So the integrated experience is, I think, something where we need to look at, because that's basically the second aspect. How can content providers help distributors to get to that point? And that's where we jump in, right? We help distributors to find a sort of a seamless way, right, to start offering that OTT content into their traditional media content offering. There's challenges. Connectivity, right? In many markets in Africa, I think that's a kind of a timing issue. But if you look at all the initiatives on broadband or even mobile connectivity, it's just a time gap that we're trying to.
It's getting there, but there's still a cost associated with it. I mean, on my travels throughout Europe, I'm amazed at how much I get for so little in terms of data. With my African experience, I'd be taking out a second mortgage to consume the amount of data that I've been consuming.
So I think, some comments there, I guess. So connectivity is a prerequisite. You might see ARPU or low ARPU in Africa at this point in time as a reason, right, not to take the OTT play seriously, but I would turn it around, right? That connectivity, left or right, will be addressed. And the opportunities is that there is a big audience, there is a loyal audience, and there's a need for many distributors and content providers to kind of find a sort of a step from that free to air in a sort of an ad-based monetization model to finding a way to start monetizing OTT content. But the way to do it is you need to think as a platform, right? You need to start merging all that content into one single experience. And you need to make it easy. You need to make it easy for content providers to onboard that content. You need to provide technical ways, right, to support monetization. So if it's an ad play or if it's, operator billing that you need to support, it's many of those things that you need to put in place. But this is where we think, the market is going. I think there's one super opportunity for introducing OTT in many of the African markets, and that's OTT brings the ability to personalize the content experience, right? And if you see that there's so many different markets, so many demographic groups, in traditional or linear media distribution, that always is a challenge because there's a huge cost for setting up new channels. And I think that's where specifically OTT is a big opportunity. But the challenge is, all right, how to follow that development of connectivity, getting there, and how does the monetization play is going to work out on top of free to air.
I mean, isn't the challenge as well just knowing what your strategy is rather than doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that and falling over?
Well, I think that's definitely a good point, Reese. And I would forcefully say, take it seriously and don't do it half, right? And don't treat it as something separate. Treat it as something that's an integral part of your content offering, because you need to have one strategy, and it's a kind of a layered approach where you actually say many of the linear content offerings are like a necessity to draw the audience, to attract people, to create reach. And on top of that, I guess there's the additional opportunity for OTT, right, to start that monetization play. And my last comment there would be, treat these OTT parties, right, from an operator perspective, treat these OTT providers as friends. Don't start a fight on who's on top, right? The opportunity is the operator has already the trusted relation with the end consumer. He has a billing relation with the end consumer. What can you do? How can you use, or how can you leverage basically that infrastructure? Work together.
Yeah. So would you see the like the companies that Carol and Saifule and some will represent as being mini aggregators in their own right, or should they join forces with a super aggregator?
And that's a bit of a rhetorical question, and I don't want to preach to the converted. But look, I think it's both, actually, right? So look, if you can just jump on some of these big operators in Africa that have the audience, that have the infrastructure, I would leverage it. And on the other hand side, it still gives you also the opportunity to build basically direct plays to certain groups of people where you can have a sort of a direct to consumer strategy. It's not or, I would say, it's and, because you still have people that have that remote control unit baked in their hand and just want to consume everything via that single screen. And there's other target groups, youngsters or other demographic groups that are happy to just jump on your desktop app or on your mobile application to consume certain content directly. So yeah. Unfortunately, the message is a little bit more complicated than either one or the other.
Yeah, and certainly there's going to be a finite limit for most people in the number of subscriptions you want to take out on the number of services. You'll spend most of your time skipping rather than watching.
Well, but I think that's another opportunity in OTT, right? I guess you don't want to waste anyone's time. And I guess the ability to monetize effectively comes with the more personalized and the more tailored you're able to offer a certain content package to a certain individual viewer. I think the more successful individual and efficiently you can start doing that monetization. There is money. I guess free to air in that sense is often seen in some emerging markets as a problem. And I definitely see that you need to make that conversion, that jump to monetization. But look, let me flip the coin. If you look in Europe, you know how much effort there is spent on even getting reach. Then we're not even talking about monetization, but reach is something that is of the highest value if you start thinking about doing an OTT play.
And Carol, just turning to you in terms of your firm's strategy and that monetization, what Thijs just said about reach, does that make it easier for you to go forward in as much as you already have demonstrably a big audience, and therefore one assumes good relationships with the advertisers? Does that help you monetize the way you go forward? Does it mean, for example, that if you got an SVOD service, the S doesn't need to be so big because you've got advertising revenues that you can rely on, as opposed to somebody else who might be struggling to get advertisers to support them?
Well, yeah, very interesting question. We have struggled with monetization on the OTT platforms, on the SVOD, as well as the digital app, and that's our experience. And I think we are more and more seeing the perception that the consumer's expectation is that online is lower cost, should be cheaper, should be free. So our experience with the SVOD platform first saw a huge uptick to 3 million downloads, but the continuous subscriptions dropped because of those barriers to data, cost of data, and we realized consumers, not a huge percentage, are willing to pay for access to the platform and then pay for data as well. So the partnerships, like Ty is saying, with the huge telcos have come in a big way to help us bridge that gap, and give us, we've created, for example, in partnership with Safaricom, bundled packages around some of the popular shows that we've noticed are taking a liking to our consumers. So for one flat price, they get in onto the app and the data is covered in there and they access the content. So on the Citizen Digital app, we chose to go the AVOD way in terms of a revenue model. So
is that why you relaunched it? Because you said you just relaunched the app.
We relaunched it, well, for different reasons.
Okay.
We relaunched it because we needed to bring it up to date in terms of the user experience, the content offering over there, and also to bring all our brands under one roof, because before that we were all over the place.
Yeah.
So it has consolidated our voice to the audiences. So I think ours is a waiting game. We are hopeful. We know that as long as we keep consistent with the quality of the content, which is what we are good at, the revenues that we are seeing on linear will follow us there. So we are not yet there, but we are hopeful.
And do you think the use of OTT platforms makes it easier to be able to demonstrate that you've got an audience? Because one of the banes of operating, as I know, TV broadcast operations in Africa is you just can't easily measure what's going on and prove to advertisers that their dollars or shillings are being well spent. Does an OTT delivery platform make it easier for you to demonstrate the value of what you do to the advertiser? It
does, certainly. Yeah, because the research methods currently at play for linear are very different from, what we have on the OTT, which delivers definite numbers. We are able to even entice brands to come on board and try us and see the sort of delivery, the return on investment we will make on their money, and then they're able to now stay on. So yes, certainly, we think it will be a journey, but yes, we will have a lot of brands on board in the long run.
Great. So Phila, let me ask you, because I know you're in charge specifically of digital for RTI. So how do you relate to, if you like, the mothership, the other part of the business?
Excuse me, I did not catch really your question.
Well, if you are responsible for digital, do you feel that you operate in a separate bubble to the totality of the business? And if that is the case, is that good or bad in your view? Or should you be more integrated?
No, we are definitely part of the whole job, you see, all the company, because at the end of the day, people want to see some good content. And if you don't have any good content about the linear TV, you cannot make the good user experience for your customers on the digital. So we work close with the linear to prepare and to have the edition of these contents. But the business is, and the challenge is to make the good, you see, on the digital, people don't want to have a 1 hour program or half an hour program. So the challenge is to cut the good part of the content and to make them want to consume it with the platform, you see. For example, if we were cutting it will be difficult for us to cut our conversation now because every part of the conversation is interesting. But if, for example, it was an emission, a program of entertainment, we'll have to take the parts where perhaps Rhys was introducing. And if you want to follow the end, you have to get connected to the platform to see it. And for the monetization, we work with Google, and we have, yes, everything is good with them.
And what about telcos? Do you operate with telcos?
Of course, we have made the same solution about Carol 3 years ago with Orange, because we have seen that people have an issue with the connection and the data, you see. And the challenge was for a free-to-air television, will it be relevant for the market to make some bundles of TV they can see free on the television, you see? And we have made this bet with Orange, and everything was good. We have a good conception about these bundles, because some people want to have just the control about their data. So when you give them a bundle about the TV and the data, they are very, very at ease. And we are going further with them because we have made some bundle about the day, about the week, and about the month. And they have good appetite for that.
And how about viewing the telco as competition? Because I know in quite a few countries, telcos have started and by and large failed at launching their own content services, trying to do a Vodacom this or a Tigo that, and it's never really gone very far. I've got some experience in South Africa, and graveyards littered with people who had great ideas and didn't get any further. Do you think that war's over now, and that telcos realize that the clue's in the name? They're a telecommunications company and they should work with you to provide the content to make people use their phones?
Oh, it's a really definitely good question. Because sometimes in some hands we are in partnership, and in other way we are real competitors, because telcos like Orange or MTN, or I don't know, they have money, huge sum of money, so we can invest about the contents, about making the films, that things we can't do because we have to run our activity, you see. So what we have done, instead of fighting with them, we have made partnership to make them distribute some of our contents that we want people to pay for. You see what I mean? Because we are free TV, it's difficult for us to say, oh, Race, you have to pay to see this content. But if we go with the telco will sell it for us. And as they have huge and many customers, the strategy is quite simple, because at the end of the day, they will have to earn money for us.
Yeah, but you're going to earn money for them, because I'm guessing they're going to want some of the revenue as well. And yeah, that's okay. That's a negotiation. Samuel, how is it in Ghana? How do you distribute? Are you in partnership with telcos, or are you at war?
No, we are not at war with the telcos. I think the whole expectation that drives the telcos is markedly different from the media houses. I mean, the telcos see huge money and are driven always in a direction where they can find only money. And that's one of the reasons why they fail at trying to be a competitor to us in terms of creating their own content. The thing is that they have always underestimated the cost of creating content, and they take it for granted. And then the issues of copyright, they take it for granted until they get into the space, and then they see how content production actually depletes every gain that they make. So yes, they have tried. I mean, in our market, MTN has tried and have had to tone down a bit. What we have done, we only have subscribed to some of the aggregators for now, and we are in talks with Vodafone to try and bear the cost together so we can co-own some of the OTT services that we want to do, especially with what we call premium news delivery, because we generally are a news and current affairs station, and so premium news and live programming is where we are heading with this OTT. But we haven't, basically in our part of the world, again, the access issue is real. And I talk about even the cost of smartphones, which primarily will be the tool with which people access our OTTs, and then the pricing for data is another issue, and that is the main issue that drives people away from this pattern of consumption. So these are things that we are in talks with some of the telcos to see how. I mean, what we can't do anything about pricing of smartphones. I mean, but in terms of doing special packages for OTTs, I think there will be light at the end of the tunnel.
I mean, we've leapt straight from linear TV into OTT, but just a subsidiary question: has the evolution of DTT helped or hindered, or is it irrelevant to this transition? I mean, when we're thinking, for example, about coverage and availability to people, has DTT helped, or is that now been and gone and it was pretty much an irrelevance?
Well, DTT will help, only that even the rolling out of the DTT hasn't seen its full scope yet. But definitely it will help. People are still trying to convert even their reception from analog TV into digital TV, and that's the reality on the ground. People will have to now use boxes to convert and all this. It gets a bit clumsy as to move away from the urban communities into the rural places. So this is where we are, kind of a transition. But I think DTT will do a bit more for the whole process.
Great. Thanks, Tice. Come to you, and then we'll wrap this up. One of the questions in my mind is technically, what are the challenges as you see them? Because we've got three at least very enthusiastic advocates now of moving into the OTT space. It's probably a continuous journey. I don't think you can say it's ever done. It's encouraging, at least it's been started. But technically, what are the challenges these people are going to hit?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I guess we're all getting fired up on OTT. But if you get your hands dirty, then you'll figure out that it's not a straightforward experience on how to just get it right. I guess just going back one step. Technically, the first challenge in any market is connectivity. I guess nothing to add. I guess you all made comments. I guess there is a transition going on, and again, preaching the good word today. But I believe that since you need connectivity, the only way forward, building a successful OTT play, is to find a sort of a partnership with operators, right? Regardless if that's fixed line operators or mobile operators, right? Because in many regions, probably, Wi-Fi or connectivity will be delivered, via mobile data, and not so much via fixed line. That being said, let's assume that we have found that operator platform. I'm gonna swap the view a little bit to the operator perspective. You want to talk to many good content providers, but it is hassle, specifically if you want to start integrating apps and OTT on the big screen, right? Because you want to take that to market quickly. That's one of the great effects of OTT. You can be quick, you can be fast. But if you then need to do like 6 or 9 month integrations, you need to integrate to specific billing and subscription management systems, you kind of get lost in a sort of a technical exercise. So my second point, besides connectivity, is start adopting app frameworks. So make sure that you make efficient use of app frameworks that's already integrated on the operator side. And that means that you have I would say a much more straightforward way to integrate your app. For example, on the big screen, Lightning is a new app standard that is very efficient for operators to start integrating OTT apps, right? So Comcast, Sky, like one of the biggest family members on our side, but also the other operators that we work with, like MultiChoice, like Liberty Global, like Vodafone, is just using that Lightning framework. So make it easy for two sides, right? Because then you can be agile, then you can be quick on the ball. And the third aspect is it's kind of hard, guys, because I know that all the brands that you have been building for years and years is super important. But let's not start a logo competition on that big screen, right? Because what we need to acknowledge is that from the end consumer perspective, they want to have a relevant and a seamlessly integrated content experience. So that logo competition, if I may call it like that, is probably something where we would need to balance that out. We need to slam the brakes a little bit on our own enthusiasm, right? I'm now talking from the content provider perspective. And the operator also needs to acknowledge that there needs to be a certain visibility on that. So probably what I'm trying to say as a conclusion here, Reese, is I think there's an opportunity in working together. Connectivity is one, leveraging a framework like, for example, the Lightning app framework is crucial. And thirdly, make sure that you kind of adopt the thought of that content experience on the big screen, that needs to be one seamless experience.
Thanks, Tice. Guys, we're getting towards the end of this. So I'm going to go around and ask you all to give us a view in 1 minute on what you think you've learned from this and what your challenges are going forward. I'm going to start with you, Carol, as well. This title of this session was African Broadcasters' Role in Fast-Moving TV Landscape. I'm not certain that the TV landscape is the right definition of this. I think it's communications, it's content, it's information or whatever, but let's stick with that as a general direction without necessarily having an accurate compass point. What Tice was just saying, loyalty to brands, logos, whatever, does that spark something in your mind? 1 minute, what do you see the challenges going forward?
I think from our experience, and just listening to what I said and everybody, we've continued to establish that we don't have all the answers. We have to be very observant, continuously observe our environment and see what is working. At what pace do we need to move, Because I don't believe anybody has all the answers and can predict what this OTT space or TV landscape will look like.
You probably don't even have a clue of some of the questions.
That's the truth. We saw what happened with the music industry, and then we watched what happened with the books, and then we saw what happened in film, and we knew something was coming, and we're now riding it. And we know it will grow into this big thing that we'll all be drivers of. But let's stay curious, I think, and let's stay observant. Africa, the world is looking at Africa. So there's something big happening. 54 countries, 1.2 billion consumers. There is going to be a big evolution that will be part of there. So,
absolutely. Let's have the world looking at Africa for good reasons.
Exactly.
Saifule, thank you, Carol. Saifule, are you curious about being curious?
Curious about being curious? No, I can say the same, I think, about, I appreciate the intervention of Carol. I say we have to stay humble, to be humble, because the market is teaching us many, many lessons every day. And for my part, I think that I was in the mobile industry before going to the media. When you see the evolution and the growing of the mobile in Africa, the combination with the media will open some doors we have never imagined. So I think that the future is bright. The future is really bright, and we have good opportunities in our continent.
Thank you, Saifule. Samuel, I recognize that having just qualified for the World Cup, you can't be humble. But
oh, good advice. Okay, I think for me, the lessons are clear. One, that whatever challenges we are facing here is not only common to us, but something that is shared by other providers on the continent. But something that excites me is the whole transition and switch eventually, if possible, from linear TV programming to OTT is a good opportunity for branded African content to find its own unique consumption. As opposed to where we were forced to take sequential programming from international networks and the likes. So it's a good opportunity for us to now curate our own types of programming that reflects who we are as Africans, and also find our own audiences beyond borders, because typically a linear TV programming will serve the footprint of Ghana, but the moment it goes beyond borders through OTT and other forms of digital expressions, I access other consumer markets. And I think that for me is key. Our music, our poetry, our lifestyle, our ideals generally have found a new way of expressing themselves. And I think that for me is a win-win for Africa.
That's a real positive message, Samuel. Thank you very much. Tice, you've got 45 seconds just to put one soundbite of wisdom in there.
Yeah, and Samuel, thanks for creating a great hook, because OTT actually gives you the opportunity to bring that content, that niche content, to target groups basically anywhere in the world. Guys, the only thing I would say is leverage existing platforms and frameworks, and definitely embrace a partnership with the operators. That's the way to get your app and your content across.
Thank you very much, Tice. Thank you very much, everybody. Carol, Saifule, Samuel. It's been a really interesting discussion. As always, it could have gone on for another hour and a half, but most of us got work to do. Samuel's got to go back to bed and recover from last night. So I hope you enjoy. Well, I know it's very early in Ghana as well. So thank you for joining us, everybody, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.